Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from Things That Matter. Got just a couple of stories to talk about today, primarily one which relates to a bloke by the name of A. Bolt, and as is often currently one of my major topics is trying to find a way to just analyse a little bit of what sometimes the right-wing media have to say. So I'd just like to welcome everybody to Things That Matter. Now I know, I just want to thank all those people that logged on last time I did a live feed. I really did appreciate it. I was quite surprised to see that there were so many people who had actually twigged to me. And I think one of the reasons was, which I haven't done, I just forgot to do, was setting up a title. So my title today will be about having to go at the right-wing media, which just tends to be par for the course, really, because I just don't understand why it is that they're such an irrational bunch of nitwits, basically. And it is interesting to see how they sit on just one particular media network. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the United States or in Australia. It is the Murdoch press that seems to be dominating right-wing talking points and seems to focus just on having right-wing media people talking about right-wing type issues. So And I think I don't believe there's enough criticism in Australia, particularly around the other medias or media in general. In Australia here, though, we have a program on the ABC called Media Watch, which actually does have a look at in depth, far more in depth than I could ever be, because I just don't have the resources of the ABC. I just have the resources of Tony Tonkin, whatever that might mean. But Media Watch at least holds a lot of media to account, including their own network, which I think it'd be really helpful if we saw more people holding right-wing media to account. Occasionally we get people like Chris Wallace, and we get others from Fox News that may choose, and Sean, whatever his name was, the guy that left them because he could no longer stand the crap that he was having to spout, and he was critical of the news network. So it's helpful just to have someone offering a critical view. Now, I just need to say that doesn't mean that anything that I say obviously is right. I'm just as much open for criticism about anything that I say as anybody else. So, it is important to understand that if I wish to choose to criticise somebody else, then I guess it's that them and their friends are just as entitled to criticise me and what I have to say, and that's fine. Go for it. I don't really care. In fact, it would be really nice to know that we were having that sort of level of conversation where we're having a back and forth, and that some of these people at least tried to justify their position around some of the things that they talk about. So I'm going to have so Andrew Bolt is a right-wing commentator who holds himself up as some expert or authority around journalism and how journalism should be portrayed. Now, the right-wing media do have a thing about what they perceive as fake news. And I want to remind some of these people, though, that the term fake news comes from autocratic dictators or autocratic societies where the news media criticises their views. Now, I keep thinking that people like Trump and Bolt and others on Sky News and Sean Hannity and all these other weird individuals, that they would like to have a system which offered no criticism whatsoever. Like, how good would that be? That everything that the dear leader said, a bit like North Korea perhaps, or a bit like Russia, because if you criticise the media in Russia, you get locked up. In North Korea, you get killed. Probably will get in China, you get locked up or executed. So maybe kind of these are the societies that these people would prefer to have. So I often get the impression that people like Bolt would prefer other people in the media not to criticise anything that's happening when you've got a right-wing politician or you've got a politician that is corrupt, that it's not important to be able to talk about that corruption, but it's really important to talk about the other side's corruption. So on one side, you can't talk about their stuff because you're not supposed to, because the dear leader will be offended. And on the other side, you can't talk. They want to criticise them for their so-called level of corruption, even though often it is unfounded. And we'll find this out sort of. I'll just open up the discussion to talk about whether or not you believe that some of the things that Bolt talks about are factual or not. And I've got a small example just to show you how perhaps irrelevant they may actually be. So, but I do want to remind you to, if you can, please subscribe to us and ring the bell if you can, to be able to get more of these wonderful live feeds and to open up a discussion with me and with others about some of the things that we talk about here. So what I'd like to do is start by having a look at Bolt's conversation, and then we'll go on and we'll discuss it as he moves through this conversation.
I'm in the media, and even I feel like, well, particularly I think, because I'm in the media, even I feel like I can't trust anything now that I read or see unless I've checked the facts for myself. And when it comes to the American election...
Now, I find this really interesting that here he is talking about he can't trust the media unless he checks the facts. Well, if you're a journalist, that is what you do. That is your job. So either Bolt saying he's not a journalist, or, and I love the way he says, I'm in the media. So, and I have no idea what that means. Is he just a figurehead? Is he just a talking point? Is he just an opinion person? Or is he really something that means something to the profession, such as a journalist? I'm sorry, but I think this will probably start again to cover that bit. But let's just continue.
I'm in the media, and even I feel like, well, particularly I think, because I'm in the media, even I feel like I can't trust anything now that I read or see unless I've checked the facts for myself. And when it comes to the American election, the vote's in just 2 weeks, everything just tells me that the media has never been as untrustworthy as it is now. The spin, the lies, the bullying, the fake news. And now, which is a new twist...
I like that bit. We'll get back to the new twist in a moment, but I like that bit about the fake, the lies, the deception, the fake news, whatever it was that he said. And so he's the arbiter of truth. I guess that's what he's trying to say, that there's this other version of the way things are that makes it the truth. And the stuff that you get from other media sources, and I'm going to refer to them as left-wing media sources because I don't necessarily believe that a lot of them are. I think a lot of them do present rational. You know, funnily enough, I've been watching some of CNN's videos recently, and they've become quite. Jake Tapper even has become quite agreeable around some of the issues that are currently being raised. So I just want to see whether or not this progresses, and let's see what else Mr. Bolt has to say.
The refusal to report what's obviously news, but news that doesn't fit the ideology. For 4 years, the mainstream media has pushed a lie. Donald Trump had stolen the last election from Hillary Clinton by colluding corruptly with Russia to steal Clinton's emails. Our ABC...
Now, I just need to say that is a lie. That they believed that Trump colluded necessarily with Russia is not necessarily what I believe has been said. I think that what the the mainstream media have been arguing is that Russia have been pushing through misinformation, through social media and so forth, information that has favoured Trump. And there have been, let's face it, there have been a whole host of people that were in Trump's campaign who have been charged or indicted with fraudulent behaviour in terms of colluding with Russia. So it's not that Trump necessarily. I don't know if there's any real specific evidence that Trump has done it, even though I wouldn't be surprised if he has. But there's no real evidence that's come forth that says that Trump has. But certainly a heck of a lot of aides have, because many of them have been charged and jailed and let out, in some cases, for their collusion with Russia. So to argue that there has been none whatsoever is drawing a long straw, I reckon.
Was convinced of it.
Tonight, we begin our special three-part investigation into the story of the century, the election of US President Donald Trump and his ties to Russia. The Kremlin's puppet master now has America dancing to his discordant tune. He couldn't have planned it better.
A three-part ABC series on the fake news of the century, because this collusion story was totally false. Zero evidence of it, and even a rigged investigation.
I just need to say, before we start talking about the rigged investigation, that every intelligence agency, the 17 of them, whatever they are, they have more intelligence agencies than most countries in the world have police forces, but the fact that that they all had agreed that Russia had attempted to interfere in the American election is without question. And the Ferguson report on ABC was actually bringing out and just stating just that simple fact, I guess. And the fact that Bolt uses the word hoax as well, which is mouthing and emulating the stuff that Trump has to say, I just find outstanding. Amazes me that he chooses to become a sycophant, I guess, to this bloke. And I think that basically that's really unfortunate. But that's who you are, Andrew. So it be it, I guess.
By a special prosecutor with a team very hostile to Donald Trump, came up with nothing after more than a year of digging. But the media still cannot let that collusion lie go. Not if it helps to save Democrat candidate doddery Joe Biden and help him to beat Donald Trump. It starts with a laptop.
Just a brief interlude here. I just want to say, when a journalist, a person who professes to be a journalist, starts calling people names like dottery and sleepy, and starts emulating again his dear leader Donald Trump, then I just need to say at that point he is not a journalist. So if Andrew Bolt ever dares to call himself a journalist, he's lying, he's deceptive. And it's just unhelpful, because if he wants to be a journalist, then a journalist will report the facts. They will not give opinions, so you just don't name call if you're a journalist. So clearly at this particular point we can say that Andrew Bolt is not a journalist.
Biden's son Hunter left for repairs and never picked up, which under the law of course means it now belongs to the shop. Now, some of that laptop's contents were then published by the New York Post, and they are ugly. They include evidence that Hunter Biden sold access to his father when Joe was vice president, made a fortune from a Ukrainian gas company, which also, by the way, sent him an email, that's on the laptop, thanking Hunter for arranging a meeting with his vice president dad. And
Now, this is all I'm going to say about this particular issue, I think, because this is just unfounded crap. And I'm about to demonstrate how unfounded I think it is. So here he is, Bolt, presenting this apparent email. Now, for the sake of argument, I've prepared my own. And this is what mine looks like. So this email that I have here is almost identical in way to the one that he just showed, which demonstrates that anybody can print and formulate and copy something that resembles an email, but without the header and without all the other information that goes with it. It's an absolute load of crap. So the stuff that Bolt just presented to us is absolute garbage, because it doesn't have all the header information, anything else about where that email came from. And this is another. So look, I don't think Andrew Bolt's unintelligent by any stretch of the imagination. For him to have got to where he's got, and to have been a so-called journalist for so long is an interesting question. But to spout the crap that he does with evidence that I think is fake. I don't think there's anything in the evidence he just produced that demonstrated that this was an email that was found on Hunter Biden's computer, is just ludicrous. So I guess if we're going to start listening to these people, we need to be able to analyse whether or not what they're saying has any real value or not. And if it hasn't any value, then we need to be able to say that it hasn't, or we need to challenge them to produce further information. The problem is, why is it important for them to advocate for someone like Donald Trump? And I've said this before, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or it really doesn't matter who it is. It's this type of person that's the issue. So if you go out somewhere and you meet somebody and it's obvious from the conversation that they're, number one, not interested in you, number two, they're misogynist, number three, they have a set of values that are completely antithetical to your own, and that they're racist. Now, in my world, I wouldn't have anything to do with that person. I just wouldn't, because I don't want to have toxic people in my life. I just don't. People have to have shared values. I have to have. I vote and support certain politicians because I have a shared value. I supported a politician in my own local seat at the last election because I believed in her, even though she sits in a party that I don't necessarily believe in. But I believed in her. So, and she's a really lovely woman. So I wanted to support somebody I believed in. And that's not necessarily about party affiliation. However, if there was someone that was sitting in this seat that was all those things I just mentioned, then I wouldn't support them. No way. So, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look at somebody like Donald Trump and know that this is not a nice man. This is not a nice man. I'm not suggesting for one moment that I believe that Joe Biden somehow is the perfect solution, because I don't think he is either. But I don't think he's not a nice man. I think he probably is a nicer man than Trump is. So and I had a look at Obama giving a speech yesterday, and I thought, oh my God, why can't we have that guy? Why can't the world have that guy back? Because the stakes are so high. They really are. If a powerful country like the United States become an autocracy, the rest of the world is in trouble. It is a regretful thing to say, because it is not fair that someone has all that much power. But if you could imagine China, Russia, and the United States thinking the same way, carrying the ball for each other, what the rest of the world who thinks differently is going to experience as a result of that power imbalance. That is a shocking notion. And one of the things that I don't think anybody ever really talks about is, what would that look like? And how would we deal with that as a country, as countries, as the global world community? How do we deal with that? It's frightening, but that's where it's going. Unless somebody can get into power in the US and bring the United States back to at least a more even keel. I don't agree necessarily with a lot of things that they do in the US. The United States is, they have more deaths per head of population than any country on earth from guns. So, how is that fair? They don't necessarily have a terrible health system. There's lots of stuff about the United States that's horrific. And I believe there are people in the US that are trying to fix some of that. And there are other countries that are far better off, often smaller countries than the US, in terms of looking after their citizens than they are. So they need to change. They need to change because we need to change. Because the outcome, if this man Trump gets another 4 years, I think is horrific. And who knows how the rest of the world will be after he reshapes that with all his sycophants and those people that are grifting on everything that he does in his administration. So let's see, hopefully that will change. But also, let's challenge the media, myself, anybody else, even though I'm not a journalist, hey, folks, not a journalist, but anybody else who challenges the system, let's challenge them as well. If you've got an honest view about somebody because you really like the way they are, because you think that they're a decent, respectful, caring sort of person, let's talk about those qualities and traits. But, if you can't identify them in person, then that's not a leader. That's an autocrat. That's a demagogue. They're the most dangerous people on the face of this planet, particularly when they've got access to the weaponry that someone like the United States has. Let's think about it. I just want to say to everybody, look, thanks for being with me, and look forward to catching up with you next time we talk on things that matter.